What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for the Rising of the Shield Hero Season 3. This is episode 6, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah. So we do get a little bit more backstory with Ren. I mean, kind of in a way, as we do get to see what he was like before he ended up getting transported into the world he was at. So we see him as as a normal high school student, um, being asked to play uh play like this virtual MMORPG game, almost like a Sword Art Online type of game, which is kind of ironic because the Japanese voice actor who voices Ren also voices Kirito in Sword Art
Oh, I didn't know
Online.
that was him.
Um, yeah, so, um, but just another thing to point out, if anyone forgot, um, Ren, Moriyasu, Itsuki, and Naofumi each come from a separate, you know, like a separate Earth. They're not from like the same universe of sorts. Because like in Ren's world, obviously he used to play like a VR MMORPG game. While now for me, from what we saw back in his prologue story, it didn't seem to have any of that. Um, and also the fact we see that Ren supposedly we see him getting stabbed by like a robber about to attack some girls.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess that might have been the moment that I got he was maybe like isekai'd into the world after he was stabbed.
It that could be the case, but now Fumi um was summoned
Yeah,
alongside with the
he
other
was
three
summoned after like he read
heroes.
a book or something, I think. Uh,
Yeah, it could be a different circumstance for Ren and possibly the other two
yeah.
characters. Um, but yeah, it's only like brief, like from what happens in Ren's perspective. However, we do get, of course, what happens to Ren. Well, after what happened with mine, in a couple episodes ago. Um, I mean, it's not surprising, like what happened once mine ended up throwing Ren under the bus and steals his
Mine
equipment.
kind of did like a speed run of what she did to Naofumi, but she just did it to Ren this time. Uh,
I mean, this is like the third hero that she's ended
I
up
she,
doing
I
this
just
to.
like it's just funny to me how she did the exact same thing and she just managed to fool this for the full Ren, and I guess that's just because Ren is just. I mean, it does kind of go into why he's so. I guess he would be so gullible to believe her, is because he wants. I guess he desperately wants people to accept him, uh, and so he just takes her at her word. I guess that she means what she says, and of course she doesn't, um, because
Yeah,
he.
you
Oh yeah,
know,
go ahead.
I would not be surprised if she did the exact same thing to Itsuki
Yeah. Well, it
in
seems
a
like I
in
mean,
a
if
later
the
episode.
opening is anything to go by, it seems like that's what's going to happen. Is that she's going to, I guess, move on to him. Uh, it'll be
Yeah.
funny if she just try. I mean, I guess the only person she really kind of hasn't. Well, I mean, she kind of did all full Moriyasu in a way. She just didn't try to do the same thing she did with Naofumi and now with Ren. Um, but I guess now she's going to move on to the bow hero and try to manipulate him too.
Yes. Yeah, and of course, what happens is once Ren finds out that his all of his equipment is gone, and of course finds out that Mine ended up betraying him, he gets chastised by a lot of the townspeople he runs into because they feel like that he and some of the other heroes abandoned them during the events of the Spirit Tortoise arc,
Hmm.
and we also see the same assassins we saw back in the previous episode that tried to kill Naofumi
Uh,
now try to kill
I should also mention
Ren.
too,
So
we kind of get another flashback which shows I think what happened to some of his party members during the Spirit Tortoise arc.
yeah, we get to see what actually happened during the events of the Spirit Tortoise
Yeah.
arc. Um, of course, Ren walked into that fight like completely overconfident, thinking that because like he thinks like his experience playing video games and his previous life would eventually work out. But unfortunately, it didn't play out that way, as like all of his party members ended up getting killed in the process.
Yeah, so he kind of I guess he kind of has some kind of like I guess you'd sort of PTSD from what had happened to her from just seeing his party members dead like that.
Yeah, and of course he gets into denial about this as well, because at first, like he chastises his own teammates for being too weak to fight against the spirit tortoise. So he just, he goes into like whole denial mode, and we see him like this too in one of the previous episodes when he tells Naofumi this. Um, but of course, like Naofumi tries to snap him into his senses by calling him out on like how he viewed like the whole situation, by just basically like using his experience playing a video game into this, into like fighting in this world, which is not really the case, because it's a whole different circumstances, and people don't usually respawn from death in this type of world.
Yeah. But basically, like he, it shows that like I think yeah, like he eventually comes across those bandits in a cave, and he kind of ends up like taking out his frustrations on them, like by eventually just like killing them, and he takes one of the bandits, like he takes their mask, and that's why he has that like mask at the end of the last episode. But we also see he has
Yeah.
like it looks like he now has like a cursed weapon, like his sword is now cursed, and Naofumi speculates that it's what was it, like the curse of both gluttony and
Of
greed, I
greed.
think. And that
Yeah.
I guess it kind of he mentioned that I guess the seven heroes would also possess I guess the seven deadly sins as well if they have like cursed weapons. Um, so
Yeah.
and what also is interesting to note, and he doesn't really point it out, but it looks like Moriyasu's spear is also a cursed weapon. Um, when he's like fighting Rin.
Yeah, because we see it, like we saw it in the last episode too, in which Moriyasu's spear was like emanating this dark, like this dark essence coming out from the tip of his spear when he was fighting Ren at the
Yeah.
time. Um, so Ren, of course, fully unlocks his greed and gluttony abilities, pretty much ranting, and raving about his desire to become stronger than all the rest. Now for me, of course, tries to fight him, but of course, uh, it sort of ends in which Eclair decides to fight Rin one on one.
You are also saying that the fight got interrupted earlier by the those hooded figures that had attacked Naofumi in one of the previous episodes. And these were the guys
Yeah,
that I guess came from another world. Um, they do end up getting killed, and Raftalia uses her sword to, or I guess like also like destroy their souls or something, because I guess that's how they came back, is that their souls like I guess their souls just escaped or something like that.
yeah, yeah. But unfortunately, we won't know like who really sent them uh to attack the other heroes. I mean, I could speculate it could be mine. Uh, I mean, it's a possibility, but we don't know for sure whether if that's the case. But
Yeah.
it looks like a strong possibility. So, but yeah, like I said, Eclair fights Ren one on one, and she easily beats him, and in a way, like she brings Ren back to his senses, promising that she will help him find a new purpose to get stronger.
Yeah. I felt like this kind of honestly, it felt like this sort of got resolved a little bit too easily. Um, I mean, because Ren just kind of eventually ends up accepting her help, and kind of goes back to normal pretty quick after this. Um, and and it's kind of I mean, and then Moriyasu also, uh, I guess is technically I maybe joins up with Naofumi now as well. I'm not too sure, but it looks like Ren has kind of joined up with him because Claire says that I guess she's going to train him to better utilize his sword. Um, and it's kind of how we end things in the episode. I mean, Uh, it's a little bit better than last week's episode. It kind of sort of tries to redeem Ren as well as sort of tries to explain as to why he acted the way he did in the last episode. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. I don't really. I feel like I'm kind of still not really a big fan of Ren as a character, and maybe they'll try to further redeem Ren. But Moriyasu, though, I really have no idea how they're going to try to make him, like try to redeem his character at all, because it's just, uh, I really don't care much for his character. Ren is just he's okay, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Ren is the more the tolerable
Yeah,
of the three, in my opinion. As for Itsuki, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get to his story eventually, maybe by the next episode or a
I feel
few
like it's
episodes
going to
after
eventually
that.
get to get to that, and maybe that'll potentially even lead to the climax of this season, is whatever is they're going to do with Hitsuki, and I'm sure mine's going to be involved just in some way. Um, but yeah, like I said, not a great episode. It was an okay episode. Um, I guess so far, like I would say, like yeah, season three is it's a little bit better than season two. It's also different from season two, though. It feels like it's trying to be a little bit more personal, because it goes into each of the other heroes and tries to develop them. Which I don't know, I kind of like that better than just having just like the Spirit Tortoise, for instance. Like he just kind of showed up and we didn't really know much about like what it was, and now Fumi had to fight it, and it felt like it was really different from season one. This season three feels, I guess, a little bit more in line with what with season one, with season one also being more personal because it was about Naofumi redeeming himself, and I guess season three is more about the other heroes sort of trying to redeem themselves in a way. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It doesn't have the same impact as how Naofumi uh gone through his his like suffering and downturn at one point. But of course, like like now we had like an entire two core season with
yeah,
Naofumi,
that
and this one like
that's the
we
problem with this season too. Is it feels kind of like it should have, for the development for these characters to redeem themselves. It feels like we kind of need a little bit more time. Like it should have probably been a full season as opposed to just like 12 to 13 episodes. Because it feels like it just seems like they probably have to rush things. Just like with this episode, for instance, it did feel kind of rushed with how what happened with Ren, where he was antagonistic and he was trying to fight against Naofumi, and then he kind of pretty quickly near the end of the episode comes back around to to not being like that. And I felt like that should have probably happened over the course of like maybe two or three episodes as opposed to like just one episode. It feels like it just
yeah.
kind of happens too fast.
I do want to point out something about like Eclair and Ren,
Mhm.
because they actually had an interaction with each other during the Spirit Tortoise arc. Unfortunately, they never really got into that in the anime version. It just like for some reason, like they decided to introduce those two like just in this episode of this season, because they have a much bigger history with each other like prior to this.
Yeah. I
Because
guess it kind of makes sense that they
like
had to do
during
it that way, if in that case, because I mean, since they left that out in season two.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend people reading, um, the what was it the light novel version featuring the Spirit Tortoise arc, because it delves in a lot of what happened uh, with some of the heroes before and somewhat after the events of the Spirit Tortoise arc. And of course, like it goes a little bit more into the whole thing with Itsuki and Rishia. As we know, like Rishia got kicked out of the Bow Hero Party back at the end of season one, but it never really got back into it, even in season two. But it's obviously that's also going to be a plot point that's going to be brought back potentially in one of the later episodes this season.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about the episode, though. I don't know if you have anything else to say about
It was an all right
it. Yeah.
episode. I mean, just I really wish like the thing that I don't like about this season is just because it's 13 episodes and probably the reason why some of the plot points are still being a little bit rushed the way it is, just like season two was. But I mean, the character development is still decent enough
Mhm.
to be somewhat an improvement over season two, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it does feel a little bit more similar to season one, with it kind of focusing more so on that. Um, but yeah, but that all being said, guys, until next time, we will see you all later.